Now, welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2. And we're going to talk about some injury news. Some player, some vaunted rookies probably going to get sent down, possibly back to the AAA. But before we get into this video, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 2 and let me know what you think about this. So, as you know, we've been dealing with some injuries here to some big stars. Aaron Judge, I don't know what the hell he did to his toe. He ran into a wall like the Herman Munster character that he is out for a little bit. Now, from what I heard, that the healing process for that toe of his has improved greatly. So maybe he won't be on the IL for any longer than 2 weeks. And as you know, the Mets first baseman, Pete Alonso, he's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks because he got hit in the hand by Charlie Morton the other night in Atlanta. He has a really bad bone bruise and his wrist, and he sprained it. So he's going to be out for at least 3 weeks, which will take him, 3 weeks from now, and we'll see what happens there. Hoping the Mets can right the ship. And then there's Yordan Alvarez. Let me read you from Fanside. The Houston Astros trip north of the border did not go to plan. Not only did the club lose ground in the AL West behind the division lead Rangers after dropping the final 3 games of the 4-game series against the Blue Jays, but now the team heads to Cleveland without one of its biggest stars and most important pieces, Yordan Alvarez. Alvarez left Thursday's loss in Toronto early with an injury. And as it turns out, it's worse something just precautionary. On Friday, the club placed the star DH on the IL with left oblique discomfort and will send him back to Houston rather than traveling with the team to Cleveland, so he can undergo further evaluation and treatment per Chandler Rome of The Athletic. Alvarez has continued to live as one of the best power hitters and run producers in baseball this season. No, we know that. The Astros offense isn't barren with Alvarez out of the lineup, but certainly lesser. While midseason injuries are something every MLB team is forced to weather, the fact of the matter is Houston's in an unfamiliar position in the division to surge the Rangers to start the season, and anything to set them back could be detrimental, which an extended absence by Alvarez could certainly qualify as. More importantly, the discomfort labeled the injury does raise some alarms. Getting evaluated in Houston should provide more clarity on the injury, but the fact that they don't initially know the cause is concerning and something to monitor, particularly in relation to how long he could be out of the lineup. As such, how long the Astros will be missing his big bat. Now, these injuries tend to be long-term injuries. It's really an injury to the stomach, abdomen area, and you need that torque to really drive the ball to the strike zone. And he could be out at least a month, and it's an injury that could affect him the rest of the season. So that is very unfortunate news for the Houston Astros. So as you know, here in New York, we got the Yankees here too. I guess they're still here, but they have a bit of a problem, and that's at shortstop. They've had a problem at shortstop really for quite a few years, really since Derek Jeter left. They had Didi Gregorius there for a while, and they've been putting different guys there. Gleyber Torres didn't really work out there. It's just not good defensively. And then this year, they started the season with Anthony Volpe, who was coming with a big reputation as a big prospect. But he sort of has been a bit of a dud. They don't seem to be too happy about his defense, his OPS. Let me read you some of this article. And then the question they asked: should the Yankees demote Anthony Volpe so he can get right? Coming into the season, you couldn't have a discussion with the New York Yankees fan without them bringing up the excitement around top prospect Anthony Volpe making the opening day roster and his future in baseball. And the start he got off to only furthered that. Volpe came out of the gates hot with several nice plays, including a 2-for-4 showing in his second game of the season. But since then, things have been middling at best for the rookie, and at times even worse than that. For the season, Volpe has a .618 OPS in the season, hitting only .188. Oh, that's not good. While also having made 7 errors this season, and that has raised the question of what the Yankees can do to help him get out of his slump. Perhaps Perhaps demoting him back to AAA should be the move. However, is quite the conundrum for the Yankees. There isn't a shortstop on the current 26-man roster. Well, what about IKF? And New York, and with the Yankees, that could immediately take over. Moreover, they have seen Oswald Peraza on the big league club this season already, the most likely replacement of Volpe, and the results weren't great, particularly at the plate. At the same time, Volpe is viewed as a potential future franchise cornerstone for the Yankees, meaning whatever the move is to get him right should be of the utmost importance. And if things continue to trend downward, his OPS has dropped from 678 in April to 592 in May to currently 461 in June. That is not good. New York needs to explore the possibility of sending him back down to relieve some pressure and refine his offensive prowess. Well, he steals bases, but unless he gets on base, can't steal first. Obviously he has the same kind of problems that most young hitters have. Pitch him in fastballs, pitch him away with breaking balls. Probably the same problem every hitter has, and he has not been able to make the adjustment. So probably the best thing they could do is send him down and just go with. And here's the thing: the Yankees have been struggling. They've had good records, but they just haven't had a shortstop. It's the weirdest thing. Normally, you don't see that with teams that win as many games as the Yankees do. That they just don't have a shortstop worth his salt. Now here we have a little article about the Phillies. The Phillies have gotten off to really another rough start to their season. Now they won on a walk-off last night against the Dodgers, and Kyle Schwarber. Obviously it's June, and Schwarber has to hit in June, and that's what he normally does. But they got bombed today in Philadelphia against the Dodgers. The Dodgers beat the hell out of them pretty good. And the Dodgers have some issues. The starting pitching hasn't been good. They don't have a first baseman because they lost Rice Hoskins to that knee injury in spring training. Bryce Harper is his numbers are middling right now. He's coming off the Tommy John surgery. I wouldn't expect him to really put up the numbers until probably August, I would think. Castellanos has gotten off to a slow start. They just haven't had, Nola hasn't pitched well. Their starting pitching, like I said, has not been great. Well, according to Sportsnet, they're saying that an MLB insider offers insight into the Phillies' trade deadline approach. Are they going to be buyers or are they going to be sellers? Now, obviously, last year they were buyers, and they were able to get to the World Series. The Phillies made the MLB playoffs last season as the third wildcard team, making an October run all the way to the World Series. One season later, Philly is shaping up to be one of the biggest question marks of the trade deadline. MLB trade rumors have begun flying in June, with an early look at what players will be available and what teams are buying or selling. The Phillies are sitting further down the MLB standings than anyone expected, struggling to climb their way back to the 500 mark. In an interview with Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, Phillies president of baseball operations Dave Dombrowski addressed his approach to the 2023 trade deadline. Quote, and he's talking about the Tigers, 2015. We watched that club. It never could get going. It would go a little bit, but it would sputter. It just was in my heart that we weren't quite good enough. But we're far away from that type of statement here. Now, a strong start in June is likely helping provide Dombrowski with more confidence in the Phillies' playoff hopes. When play began on Friday, Philly had the fifth best record in June and started climbing back into the postseason picture. But again, like I said, they had a walk-off on Friday, but then they got destroyed by the Dodgers on Saturday. Of concern for Philly, it is 9-18 against teams with a winning record this season and has one of the worst run differentials in the majors. While injuries have played a role in the slow start, the season itself has been a disappointment for a club with one of the highest payrolls in baseball. Now the Mets played them a couple weeks ago, and last week, and the Mets swept them 3 games, and they didn't look great. They did not look good at all, from my opinion. If you want my opinion, just looking at them. But I have confidence that they're going to be there. They'll be there in September. I would mention they will be playing the New York Mets 7 times in September. So those games could determine the final wild card in this postseason. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. And, of course, keep an eye on the baseball HUD, too. When we talk about other teams, the other 29 teams that have nothing to do with the New York Mets. But I did talk about the Mets. I talk about them at some point. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the baseball HUD. Thank you, and I'll see you later.